Transurfer and the Transurfing Curious. My name is Renee Garcia and this is TransurfingTV. And today I'm going to talk about taking ownership. This is really about exercising the power of choice. Reality Transurfing really throws into our layer of reality this idea that nothing really exists in our lives without making a conscious or even unconscious choice, right? We either choose to have things and all the stuff that goes along with that, or we allow things to happen to us, allow things into our lives that maybe aren't the best for us. And then that is also a choice, right? Not being aware of what you allow into your layer of reality. So I'm going to speak on taking ownership of your life, taking ownership of the circumstances in your life, your emotions, whatever your reality is made up of. You do have the ability to manage and control what is in your layer of reality. And when I say control, I don't mean inner intention, like trying to overtly control the different aspects of your life. I mean more about you playing an active role in the choices that you make. And if you allow something into your life that maybe isn't the best for you, that you take ownership of that and then accept that that is what you are allowing into your layer of reality, therefore ceasing to have a constant dilemma with that thing, right? Either accepting or making another choice. Before I get started, remember to like this video and comment below. My world is taking care of me. To enter my daily giveaway for my reprogramming stickers, Reality 2.0 on Teachable down below. Check it out. Join us on Facebook and follow me on Instagram. So I have learned a thing or two about taking ownership the hard way, because it is, and I know we've all done this, right? Placing blame on others or placing blame on reality or life because it is simply the easier thing to do. Venturing outside of the comfort zone of placing blame takes guts and bravery and needing to encounter and utilize new knowledge to help you navigate the situations in your life that is easier just to throw blame in the direction of another or a group of people or your parents or your spouse that it's not working with or whatever, right? But really just taking the bull by the horns and accepting ownership of you navigating that situation, especially emotionally. This is really a monumental shift in managing your layer of reality. So by blaming others, we really give away our power, because we're essentially rendering ourselves powerless and saying, well, I am this way, or I have the presence of these circumstances because of you. And this is making someone else more powerful in your perception than you are. You're remaining small and somebody else is responsible or accountable for the reality that you are experiencing. And this is extremely dangerous, because when you minimize your power like that, it's probably not just in that one scenario, right? This is probably a habitual pattern that you hold of diminishing your own power and transferring the power to your reality, other people, circumstances, and keeping yourself small. Once you have sort of realized that in blaming others you give away your power, and start taking back some of the power for yourself, it's kind of like, a snowball effect. You'll start to see more and more and more how you've diminished your own power over time, transferring it to other people, and allowing those other people in your life or the circumstances or whatever to hold the power in your reality. And again, creating your own reality, you really have to get into this mode of being powerful, and blaming others is simply the antithesis of that. You can't have both at the same time, right? Victimhood is celebrated in our current culture. So we kind of have a lot of pendulums right now that want to convince people that things aren't perfect in their reality because of other people or the presence of other circumstances. And I'm not trying to say that the presence of these other ideas or other people can't influence somebody else's reality, but one must give, again, that power away. And this is kind of like the zeitgeist mode of operation right now, is celebrating how people are being victimized. And when I mean celebrating, that's not exactly the term that I mean to use. Like, it's obviously not a celebration, but transferring accountability to an idea or group of people or something other than where accountability really lies, and that's within the individual. So making certain that you are not buying in to some cultural, idea that transfers accountability for the happiness that you hold in your life to some other entity that you have deemed more powerful to take that away from you. Okay, so I'm not going to get into it, because when I talk about these things, these videos get demonetized by YouTube, and it's kind of annoying, because these are really the things that we should be talking about, is people taking ownership of their own lives and taking accountability, and not ever celebrating transferring that power to another idea or group of people. But I'm sure you can use your imagination and think of exactly how this is playing out externally for all of us in one way or another. You have more control than you think. Okay, so touching on what I was just speaking about, I know certain people that are very quick to say, well, I can't be happy because there's the presence of this other thing that's going on that diminishes my happiness or my power. I know people that are in the same position as people that are saying that, with the presence of these pendulums, with this compelling and convincing argument, yet they don't adhere to that script and decide to walk their own path, take ownership and accountability for their happiness, and not give in to the influence of that information, if that makes sense. So you have more control than you think. And it really comes down to that simple fact. When you realize that it is in your control and you can take ownership and simply turn away from that script that's being offered, that's the biggest part of the battle, right? That's the biggest part of the battle. So a few steps here. 1, notice your blame tendencies or your tendency to blame. So is something not right in your reality right now? Is there something that you don't like about your layer of reality? And are you taking ownership and accountability for managing that thing in a better manner? Well, probably not. If you're placing blame, then you're not taking ownership. You're not taking accountability, taking the bull by the horns, and realizing that there really is only you. Transferring blame and falling into the tendency to place blame is really a trap that so many people are falling into right now, right? So focus on solutions. The cool thing is about taking ownership, taking accountability, finding solutions to the things that are challenging you from living a reality where you are the one steering the ship. The really cool thing is a lot of it has to do simply with mindset and boundaries, right? So focusing on solution for me means, 1, me noticing when I'm doing this blame sort of stuff and realizing, okay, I'm going to transfer my power back to me. I have the ability to take ownership of this situation, and I can view this challenge from a different perspective if I choose to do so. So when I decide that I'm going to view the challenge from a different perspective and I'm going to take ownership of it, then comes in my role of laying down boundaries. So in regards to interpersonal relationships, instead of just saying, oh, well, this thing's messed up because this person messed it up and I'm going to suffer as a consequence, no, I'm going to transfer back over into my corner the power, right, that I can take ownership of whatever interpersonal relationship I feel is not up to a standard that I deem, the way that I want it to be. And I take back ownership of my part, and I lay boundaries for the other person. Those boundaries are firm boundaries. This is me taking ownership. This is me really putting back in to my corner the power that I have available to me. So if somebody steps over one of those boundaries, this is where my ownership comes in. Nope, that boundary's set, right? Rather than me throwing all the power into their corner and allowing them to just cross over, touch on boundaries or not even pay attention to the boundaries, and then I suffer as a consequence and of course fall into the role of the victim. Practice the power of choice. So again, getting back to choice, and this is where reality transurfing is such a powerful modality, is really understanding that either you have the choice to set things up the way that you are comfortable with, that you will feel is right for you and your life, or you have the choice to remove yourself from something, from a dysfunctional relationship, from a dysfunctional environment, whatever it is, but really, really practicing and exercising your power of choice and becoming very resolute in your ability to exercise that choice when needed, right? So really understanding and practicing the power of choice. Become accountable. So if you're continuing to experience something that you don't like, and this is happening over and over and over, then at a certain point, it's like, it's so easy to say, well, I need to make the other person change, right? I need to get them to see the situation from my perspective. I need to get them to alter their behaviors. I need to do something with my inner intention externally to get them or it or the circumstance to adapt to where then I can be comfortable. This isn't the way to do it. Becoming accountable is about you doing that work. And if it's not going to work, then you take accountability for that and not continue to try to inner intention something to your level, your standards, right? Which is energetically inefficient and ineffective. So the last point here, try discomfort. Again, victimhood and blaming others and giving away our power, this keeps us in a little comfort zone because it's easier to just go into your little box and be like, oh, no, don't do that to me, right? Rather than expanding up out of your comfort zone and taking ownership, taking accountability, navigating or finding what you need, finding the skills you need, the knowledge you need, the information you need, the tools you need to properly navigate a situation where you have taken the ownership, right? This is expanding up out of the comfort zone. And this is why people get into ruts with relationships. It's a challenge to come out of that and try to address things with new ways of operating and try to gather new tools and skills and knowledge to help you either evolve within the relationship or evolve out of the relationship, which again is absolutely leaving the comfort zone. So accepting that taking ownership may very well be uncomfortable, right? There may be discomfort there. And to acknowledge that discomfort is actually a sign of growth because you're venturing up out of that comfort zone. So being willing to be uncomfortable, being willing to get out of that little, don't do that to me. And take ownership. Again, this is an exercise. And when you do it once, the next time it'll be a little bit bigger and better and a little bit easier. And as you move through your reality, taking more and more ownership of your circumstances, you're just going to get better and better and better and better at it. This has been, and I'm probably not one that really should be teaching this because this has been a challenge for me. This has really been a challenge for me. But a lot of the ways that I'm learning is by doing this. So this is one I've been challenged by lately and I'm taking ownership of it. And I'm trying to do my best to not push blame in others' directions and take accountability, take back my power, use reality transurfing and the power of choice that I know that I have to navigate my circumstances in a manner where I am choosing the best reality for myself, right? That's what it's all about. So let me know your thoughts on this one, everybody. How can you take ownership in a bigger and better way today of the circumstances of your reality, improving your layer of reality and becoming more powerful in your layer of reality. Subscribe, like, comment, and thank you so much for watching. Bye, guys.